Alrighty, welcome everyone. Give me just a moment to unlock things. We're already live, so I just want everybody to know I accidentally left auto start on. So we are live now. I'm going to allow people to unmute and show their video. So make sure you're ready to be on live, all right? Okay, so looks good on YouTube. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start. Welcome to Worldwide Slot Car Chat on Zoom, number 249. I'm your host, Greg Galb. Some of the gang is here already with Mike and John and Don and Dewan and other people coming in because I accidentally started early. So if you didn't hear already, oops, I did it again. I don't know. We're live, so let's do it. We're doing it. And of course, more people will trickle in. So, anybody got any show and tell they want to show and tell?
I think Dewan just bought a new disco. He's like, wow, look at those lights, man.
It's either his camera or there's a light strobing in his room. It looks like a light strobing.
I'm getting those 60s flashbacks. It's not good.
And I'm totally understanding the frustration with dealing with Zoom on a portable device that Mike often vocalizes because last week, boy, they moved stuff around. It took me like 5 minutes to find the host, change option to make you host last week. But I was late anyway, so my bad. Anyway, it looks like, nope, Dewan's still got a strobe light in his room. All right, well, does anybody have any show and tell? If not,
I had some stuff.
sure, go ahead, Don.
There for a while, about a year or so ago, I was buying lots of boxes of junk parts and chassis and whatnot. And then it just kind of dried up. Forever, I didn't buy anything because there wasn't anything to buy. Well, I found something.
The dam has burst.
And it turned out to be a pretty nice little purchase on a box full of old chassis. Couple of Aurora 1/32 scale chassis with the wrong rear wheels on them, and they're in good working order.
Well, I was going to say, Don, the front wheels are correct. They have the correct kidney bean wheels, I think.
Yes, but the rear ones are not, especially the one that I changed them on.
That'll do it.
Well, the ones that were on there were basically the same thing, but they were all chewed up and half rotten and falling off. So, yeah. And then a 1/24 scale K and B chassis of the same type and caliber. And I think this one does have the correct wheels on it. But I don't know for sure.
Well, they look pretty close. No, I think you're right.
And then a couple of fairly nice Revell chassis. Now this one's missing the guide, but everything else is there, including the hubcaps, which is what I found to be really remarkable about it.
Yeah, I think that's a home set chassis, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
And a couple of different those. This is another one that is also, it just needs to have the guide hook, hooked back up and some new braid put on it. But they're not all bent up. The motors all run.
Oh, I see Dewan's paying very close attention here.
And then, there was some other bits and pieces of some chassis that weren't complete. This one I do not know who manufactured it. Maybe the motor would tell somebody. Somebody decided to cut the rear part off of it, but other than that, it's all there. I'm not quite sure with these front rims what they were trying to do with it, but and the
That
motor runs on it too.
that looks very homemade, but the side, the way the chassis rails are attached, it looks like a Revelvo.
Well, there's the underneath,
Oh,
and I haven't ever seen a Revell with
no, no, I
these
agree.
kind
Yep,
of setups, but
yep.
and that's a 36D motor in there too.
Wow.
And then there were some things that I was hoping some of our
Well, hooray, I paid the mortgage. Looks like you're in your meeting now.
yes, I am.
Enjoy.
Have no idea who made this. It's a side.
Sorry, I can you put it? Yeah, there you go. Yeah, I can't. Now we can see it. Thank you. Sorry. You know, that looks like it might be like a drag chassis or something.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Interesting how it's so flexible.
I remember getting a lot of things like that when I was with the Auto World catalog. They used to have a grab bag where you could just select something and whatever shows up, shows up. And I would get things like that and wouldn't have a clue what they were.
Now, this one is really interesting.
Oh, wow. Look at that motor. Holy crow.
Oh, check out those wheels.
Oh, very cool.
Now, I think this is right side up, but the motor runs. I think it had a drop arm that fit in these places here. Guessing.
Now those are metal cast wheels, are they not?
Yeah, they're metal.
You know what? I should dip into my Rusket stuff here. I wonder if they're Rusket wheels because they had
They're set screw.
it might be Rusket then. Yeah.
But this one was probably some kind of a drag car also. I mean, these rear hubs are humongous. In all of the junk that I have collected, I don't have any tires that are anywhere close that will fit these rims. Now, this was an interesting build by someone. I think this is a monogram chassis.
Yep, it's another that looks like a another set chassis.
But they went and soldered this wheel turning Ackerman steering onto it, but still use the original guide in it, so the guide doesn't actually control the steering. So it just flops back and forth going down the track. It runs. I wouldn't say it's a great racer, but and then these front wheels on here, I don't know if you can catch that very well, but the way that sticks out on the front wheels is, I don't think there was ever a car built that had hubs that looked like that coming out of the front wheels, but I could be wrong.
Is that maybe part of the mechanics that hold the wheels to the axle? Like, is that a screw?
Well, that is part of the Ackerman steering
Oh,
portion of it,
yeah, he fudged all kind of things.
but I don't think this setup was ever intended to be put in this configuration. I mean, it doesn't really fit. Like I said, they modified the chassis and soldered it on there. Now, here's somebody else's build. I haven't been able to figure out exactly how this design was supposed to work.
Now, what those components, Don, I'm pretty sure are rusket. Because
Well,
rusket sold brass pieces you could kind of put together like Meccano and solder.
yeah, it's some kind of tube chassis,
Yeah, that's definitely scratch built. You're absolutely right.
but these wheels need, none of them can be drive wheels. I mean, they have ball bearings in them.
Huh.
Do you see the ball bearings?
Yeah.
It looked
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
casters or something.
So
say,
even
yeah.
if you manage to get it glued to an axle, all it would do is sit there and spin inside the tire. Like I said, some of the engineering points of this I have not figured out.
Maybe it was like a Pinewood Derby kind of car or something.
Well, it's definitely a free roller.
Maybe there were
Not going to
never
put a
any
motor in
engineering
it.
points to begin with.
What's that?
That maybe there were never any engineering points to begin with.
That's true. This one, I think, is a Marx 1/24 scale chassis.
Yeah, looks like it.
And it too runs. I need a new set of tires for it, but those can be found. This is another one of those interesting engineering wonders that somebody was coming up with.
Oh no, that's a Ravel or something like that.
Revell or monogram?
Not monogram, but
No.
I don't recall monogram with a side
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you're right. Sorry.
That's a Sidewinder Revell, looks like.
Yeah. It does, but it's not the one with the offset in it, not the asymmetric one.
Yeah.
There was one that was asymmetric with
They
a
just
drop arm that angled across the car.
they decided to solder this piece of brass into it and try to make it a inline.
Uh-huh.
And I'm not sure what these were supposed to be, but they didn't get them out of the way.
Looks like it's not done yet.
Obviously. And then the last one is another dynamic chassis. Like I didn't have enough of these. But it runs, it's basically all there, just needs new rubber on it. So.
Quite the haul.
But
Well,
a pretty good box of junk.
yeah. Like I said, it kind of reminds me of the grab bag stuff that I used to get from Auto World when I used to order things from them in the late 60s, early 70s.
And here's another scratch build something that Doesn't look too bad, but definitely incomplete. Not exactly sure how it's supposed to be angled, but
Oh, is that a drop arm there, Don?
it's what it looks like with a
Oh, yeah, okay.
lot of
Yeah,
solder.
but that looks to me like it possibly had a DC-704 or something like that in the back, where the motor and the rear axle were all one piece and it bolted and it screwed onto that flat plate. You remember those?
Well, I know I don't, but
Okay. Have to Google a DC-704 and you'll find out.
that looks like the bottom of the box, so that's all I got.
All right, thanks for sharing, Don. What you got, Gio?
Hi guys, so I don't know, seems like you guys started a bit early than normal.
Yeah, I accidentally left the auto start on and started the stream, and it auto started the stream. So
Okay, so there was no time change or anything,
no,
so
just me being stupid.
no problem. Once in a while it's okay to be stupid.
Yep.
In your
Okay,
case, yeah,
so
we'll give you that.
I put a bit put together kind of a small presentation on these for the digital racers on how to convert the Hall sensor for the C chip from the ribbon that Slotted uses into wires. So it's a kind of a bit of a technical presentation. So if you have never seen C chip close by, it might not make sense to you. Okay, so the C chip is I think the kind of the smallest device that or one of the smallest devices that Slotted does for oxygen, and it's kind of flexible chip, almost can do it all. But in order to kind of minimize the footprint, they introduce these kind of flexible printed circuit or ribbons, let's say, that attach to the chip with these small sockets here. And there are two. One is for the old sensors, so as you can see here, and the other one is for the lights. So this is one of the original ribbons, is on the left, that came with the chip. And so basically, as long as you need to fold the ribbon on itself, I think it's not a big issue. But normally, this is what you need to end up with. So you have to kind of put a 90-degree band with, and even sometimes, I mean, at least with this version of the ribbon, I have here the ribbon attached to the chassis with some double-side tape foam. And even like removing it sometimes because you want to place another chassis or reposition, you get damage the bloody thing, which has happened to me multiple times. So I had several of these ribbons sitting, not working, basically. Must be said that Slotted has released a new version of this ribbon where there are less holes. So the printed tracks are kind of, I think they just go straight to the hole sensor. So it's a bit more reliable or robust, but still can get damage. And once you get to the hole sensor damage, then you are gonna have a very bad race because you start losing counting laps, or the laps counting is not reliable. So when we were in Suzuka, I think I was talking with Maurizio and kind of mentioned to him, you should try to put this stuff on wires instead of using these ribbons. And And basically we left it there. So yeah, maybe we can do something like that. Maybe we can also put like the whole sensor in a small CBD and then connect with whatever to the whole to the chip. So when I came back home, I think it was 2 weeks ago or something. I mean, I started thinking whether it would be possible for me to put wires or to put these on wires. I mean, remove completely the ribbon and connect through wires. And basically, what this allows us to do is to go back to what we had with the B2 chip, the previous version of the chip for oxygen, where you have this bigger device here that is the sensor, and then these wires that connect to the chip with these GSP connectors. And which basically introduces much more flexibility into how you're going to position. It's kind of pretty robust. So can we do something, or can I do something in order to bring to that to this kind of approach? And so the first thing that I need to do is to kind of mark out what are each of these tracks. So what you see here is so this is the part that goes inside the chip in the socket. As you can see, there are 6 kind of tracks that go then into the whole sensor, but the actual whole sensor basically requires only 3 wires. So what happens here is that so here kind of put on paper, these 6 tracks actually duplicate. So it's kind of they are paired, and this allows you to insert this part into the socket either side, and the information basically, I mean, this whole sensor will work anyway. And so the first thing that kind of, I mean, we don't need all the 6 track, we just need to utilize 3. And so what I did here, just try to mark them out, and then also start color coded with the wires that I wasn't going to use. So red, the R is for red, yellow, and black. It's an U. And and so this is the other end of the ribbon, where there is the whole sensor device. And again, I kind of mark out, which pin is which color of the wires I was gonna use. And at the end of the ribbon, you can see here these are 3 tracks. So 3 soldering pads that I could use for soldering my wires directly to the whole sensor. Slow down. Okay, so basically this is the kind of the final product. As you can see, the wires are soldered to the end of the ribbon, so which basically connect directly to the old sensor. And for the other hand, because so these wires here are 32 AWG, so you can imagine how small they are. And for putting them on the other hand of the the ribbon, basically I use very thin tip for my iron. And so this modification is possible because the part that goes inside the socket actually does not go in all the way through. So which leaves, I don't know, a good 3 millimeters, no, even more, 4 millimeters out, where we can solder the wires onto it. So the bit that goes inside the socket is very small. So these enable me to kind of be able to put these wires on and still able to fit the thing inside the socket here. And over here you can see that although I have the same 90-degree bend, let's say, I mean, with the Y's, it's much more easy. I mean, it's much easier to kind of install the sensor, and yeah, in the long term results, you know, a longer longevity for the whole system, let's say. Must be said that this bit over here, the ribbon is still kind of the weakest link, let's say, because even removing these up and down can damage the track, or removing these from where it's sitting, if you are again using some kind of sticky material, can damage the track. So let me zoom out. So the other option is to completely remove the device from the flexible tape or ribbon, and then connect the wires directly to the device. Or the other option, this was suggested by Wayne, is to maybe use a whole sensor that is kind of the device used for a device used in the B2 chip, which is this flat one that is a bit bigger than this one. And again, the connection can be made more secure to, I mean, on the wire. So this one is really, there's a connection here, or this wiring here, it's really flimsy. So that's why I think this device will be really good on a PCB that is much more solid than the flexible thing, and then wire onto it. On the other end, with this device, once you cut these pins to length and then solder the device onto it, then you can put in heat strings, and the whole thing is much more robust. And again, then this is the modification. So this actually is the same ribbon, but now attached to this other device. And again, here are so these devices are, you have to install with one phase looking down. Otherwise, basically, will not count the laps, because it's sensible to the magnetic field of the magnets that are on the track for counting lap. So with the beveled side looking down, so then the 3 pins have to connect to the the yellow, black, and red wire as coming out from these tracks. The question was whether this sensor, this whole sensor was gonna work with the C chip, and the answer is yes, it works. So this is the car with the same car with this other whole sensor installed, and works perfectly. So yeah, so there's basically, there are 2 options for, I would say, improve the robustness of the lap counting or the whole sensor for the C chip. The most difficult bit is basically soldering the wires to this bit over here. That one you have to be kind of really careful to avoid that you shorten the 2 tracks basically, or that you put too much lead, because once this stuff is completely full, then it will be really difficult to put inside the socket. And I think, yes, this is the last slide.
Fantastic work. I would never do that. I mean, I hope that there was some discussion like yesterday or this morning about that from Slotted. They don't seem super stoked about doing it, but I certainly hope they do, because I hate the ribbon.
I think everybody hates the ribbon. I mean, if you really,
even when you're doing the landscape orientation for the chip, it's still a pain in the butt to get it from there over to the side of the car. Even if you can loop it, it still has to move over a bunch. So the loop is all stretched out and wants to pull back, and it always wants to be a straight ribbon, so it's always fighting. You're always fighting against it, no matter where the chip is placed or where the sensor is being placed. Wires are so much better for that.
Yeah, and then so yeah, Mauricio kind of would like to use the ribbon or the flat cable that they use for the light kit, basically.
Yeah, but it's
Again, that's what I mean. Huh?
is that one wires?
No, it's not wires. I mean, but it's basically like six. I think six.
Conductors.
What?
Conductors, 6 conductors on it. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a rigid, right? I mean, it's you can still bend it and gonna stay, but I don't think it's as flexible. I mean, because those wires, even though are 36 or 32 AWG, they're still multi threads, right? So or strands. So basically, they are much more flexible than just one thing that you fold on itself. Because again, no matter you're not gonna leave it there forever, right? So you start moving and refixing, and then you're gonna break those conductors. So I really hope that I don't know if it's possible, because that's also the other thing. I mean, for them to manufacture at scale and at a low cost, if it's even possible to do something on wire. But for sure, I think I'm gonna change all my ribbons to this kind of approach. And as Wayne suggested, maybe instead of buying ribbons with the old sensor and cut them out and whatever, maybe buying the flat cables that you can find from eBay, because of this stuff, it's pretty common. Cut those and then use the extremities for for soldering the wires, to go into the socket. So it's gonna be kind of much cheaper than just to buy a ribbon, a slotted ribbon with the old sensor, cut it to put it on wires.
Those white cables, those white flat cables, like the one that the light kit uses, are actually PVC coated cables. So if you used one end in the chip, you may actually be able to snip between the conductors on the ribbon and strip the conductors and use those on your B2 style hall sensor and get a really, really robust solution. The other thought that I've had is, imagine if the flat printed circuit ribbon was 15 millimeters long total. The hall sensor came out the socket on the C chip and just plop right there on the chassis, just off the center line. That would be perfect. It would just fall in behind the front wheel, and there would be no bend at all.
But if you're putting it landscape, then you'd need the socket to be rotated.
Well, no, the socket on the landscape orientation, I think, comes out at the front, and it would just land just behind the guide tab, somewhere there. If it just came out the chip and just went plop straight on the chassis, I don't exactly know what dimension it would need to be. But I have done landscape installations, and when I've done that, I've actually taken the ribbon and looped it all the way around the front axle, and literally run the front axle through the ribbon to get back behind the front axle and put the chip on the chassis, just to take up the length of it.
So you're installing the chip so that the central LED is as far forward as possible.
Yes.
That's reverse of what you need to be able to use the chip on a Carrera digital track. So the proper installation is 180 degrees of what you're doing.
From there, yeah. So it would come out the back of the chip then, I imagine.
Yes, and so you still have to do a loop-de-loop most of the time to get it to where you want it to be, but you're also having to shift it over a bunch. I'd like a longer ribbon, if anything. I mean, if the change they make is to change the length of it, I'd rather have a few more millimeters of length.
Really?
Yeah.
Because it seems to most installs that we tend to do that, it's taking up the length of the ribbon that's the issue for us.
Yeah, but that's the problem of the C chip, because it needs to do a lot of things that actually it's not doing. And I think it's creating more issues than anything else.
Well, it's doing those things for me.
Yeah, but it's not the majority of the C chip are being used for moving car in different systems or whatnot. I mean, it's a super niche of the niche of the niche. And actually, when people try to do that, they all always complain that something doesn't not work, or there is always issue, like we've seen recently on slot form, right? I mean, the screw, not screw, blah.
Yeah, that was weird. I don't know what's up with that. I've never actually tested it without the screw to see if that's normal behavior with no polarity.
I was expecting, yeah, that with no screw there is no actually movements of Corvette, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I think the consensus is that we would like Slotted to improve the flexibility of that Hall sensor cable. However, that's done.
Yeah.
Better would be good. So yeah, I think we're technical out for a minute or two. Dennis, what would you like to talk about?
It's still good work, Jay. Well done, mate.
Oh yeah, fantastic work. Go ahead, Dennis.
All right, so the next big race at Electric Dreams comes up on the 8th and 9th of March, which is not this weekend, but the following one. And one of the races that's going to be on that day, or that weekend, is the new, the first race on the new 8-lane track, and it's going to be an endurance race on multiple teams. And so here's the car that I'm busy working on for that event. These are all the why is it so?
That looks big, Dennis. Is it 124?
It's 1/24 scale, and they are very big cars. They have nearly a 5-inch wheelbase, so it's an enormous thing. They weigh about 200 grams or so. It's one of those nuts bolt together nuts and bolt chassis. Another one of which I'm actually busy working on right now. So this is what they look like without any bodywork on them. It's a steel base plate with a lot of machined carbon fiber pieces on it. And a 22,500 RPM, 430 gram centimeter torque motor running through 1444 gearing. So they're not too bad speed-wise. This one's wing just came off. Can you believe that I dropped this car this morning and broke the bloody wing? Hasn't turned a lap yet.
Hey, Dennis, that's a good thing, because at least now you know what's likely to happen if you manage to crash it.
Yeah.
You can solve that problem before
try
testing.
not to crash it. Yeah. Anyway, I mean that's what the car looks like, and we are, there's 3 of us in the team. It's a 4-hour endurance race. We run through the 8 lanes on the track 3 times and in 10-minute heats. So each one of us will get 80 minutes of racing, which is a lot for us. We're not used to that much usually. But I just thought I'd let you see it. And as I say, I'm busy building another one, but this one's going to go into the store for sale. All the bits and pieces lying there. Hopefully I'll get it done today. So that's me for now, and I've got to leave early today, guys. So enjoy your chat, and I will see you next week.
What's the
Dennis,
brand of that car?
Scale Auto.
Okay, I thought.
Sorry, I should have mentioned that. Yeah, it's the event is the Scale Auto Festival. We run the 132nd scale GT3 cars on the Saturday on the Cunningham track, the 6-lane up the front, and then on the Sunday we have the 4-hour enduro on the Nyland track, which is the 8-laner at the back of the store.
Very cool.
Okay.
Dennis, do you care to demonstrate for us how that chassis articulates?
Sure.
I think a few points where it moves, isn't there?
There's a whole bunch of things. If you look under the front axle, right under the wheels, there are 2 little springs, one each side. So this whole front section down the middle of the chassis and the front end with the guide is all suspended. Hold on, just let me hold this camera in my teeth and then I'll move it. So there's just a little bit of movement on the front end, and then the rear, the motor is mounted into this red part, which is an aluminum pod that has a steel piece underneath it. And that is also sprung. It has two little springs at the back and one up at the front, all down the center line. So this whole thing has a movement left to right as well.
Are those springs copper colored?
Some of them are copper colored, some of them are black. It depends on the spring rate. So the softer ones are copper colored, the stiffer ones are black.
I think that's the other way around, Dennis.
Oh, maybe. I don't know. I haven't checked.
We use the same spring tuning set. I think they're a 4mm length, but there is an extra hard, a silver one.
Okay. I'll check.
You might need to look into that one.
Yeah.
Is there a spring under the purple that
No.
center line? Okay.
No, that's loose right there.
Okay.
And so that's what allows the front end to move a little bit more. And it rocks a little bit front to rear because of that.
Thank you.
Now, the interesting part is that on the base plate, the weight in the middle there and these two on the sides, let me turn it over, and you can see them. They can be broken out. There's just a couple of little tabs that hold them in there. So they can be broken out. If you can get the car to handle without all that weight, maybe you can run it without the weight. If you want to add the weight back in, then the screw holes allow you to now attach that weight either to the center, to the front end. That center weight then attaches to the front, to this front subframe, or the side weights attached to the H plate, which is how the body rides, because the body will ride on these on this frame here. Okay.
Yeah.
Now I don't know what the effect is going to be of putting all that weight onto the body and holding the body down like that. I have a funny feeling it won't work so well, because when you look at this, the body floats quite easily on the chassis, and with all that weight, it may not move so well. That may be an advantage. I don't know yet.
Yeah, I think that Scale Auto every year basically come up with some new BS on the 124 chassis. I've
Yeah, of
seen
course, so that
basically
they can sell
thinking
something new every time. Yeah, I
every
agree.
year. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Anyway, that's what I've got, guys. So I need to go. So I'll see you all next week.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for coming.
You're welcome. Have a good one.
All right, anybody else got show and tell? You want to share something, Mr. Roberts? Be sure to unmute yourself. There you go.
Good afternoon, gents. So recently I extended my wooden routed track and retaped all three lanes. And the reason I retaped it, and we had talked about this about a month or so ago, is it's the tape started coming up in certain areas, and I was pretty positive the major reason for that was I didn't do a good enough job burnishing. So a friend of mine, his wife is into arts and crafts, actually gave me this.
Bone folder.
A what? I'm sorry?
Called a bone folder in Leathercraft.
Oh, is it really? Oh, okay. She called it a burnishing tool.
Used to be made from bone, but yeah, now it's like nylon.
Yeah, this doesn't feel like bone. So I burnished every inch of it's 420 inches of tape, and I feel confident that this is going to be a much better situation with my tape. This just seems to have done a much better job than the devices I used before.
What did you use before?
Well, I used the old Bic lighter.
Okay.
I also used a wallpaper seam roller.
Yeah.
And I thought that was doing a real good job. And in retrospect, now that I look at it, it wasn't. I'm positive that I just didn't do a good job. But this letter open or whatever you want to call it seems to have done the job. We shall see.
Nice. That's a great suggestion. Yeah.
Okay, that's it for me.
All right. Thanks, Bob.
You're welcome.
Right,
That's a really good simple solution, John. Thanks.
Well, I'm a simple guy.
And it sounds like you could probably get those in most craft stores or obviously online. Get everything off.
I'm sure.
So the purpose of burnishing then, that's to what? Just make the adhesive work better, or
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that's the case. Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of adhesives require pressure to really do their job properly. I would say activate, but you're not really activating anything. You're just giving it a good hard push.
Yeah, I mean, if any of you have built a model trying to use bare metal foil, you have the same sort of issue. If you don't burnish it down really, really hard, it starts to lift up. Like, yeah. So, excellent. Thank you.
All right. Anybody else got any show and tell? Moving on to Club Corner, talk about some slot car racing. I didn't do any last week. Did some on Monday. Did not do well. But I'm running an F40 against a bunch of Toyotas in our skill Revo Slot GT1 race. So I knew I wasn't going to be doing well to begin with. So I don't consider it a loss per se. Just I brought a knife to a gunfight, knowing that I was going to a gunfight with a knife. There we go. All right, Mike, you put your hand up, but you're muted.
And now you know my frustrations.
Yep.
Oh, God. Now I got to find the share, and it doesn't work with my fingers. It's really irritating. Oh, there we go. Okay, we got some. We had 2 races, and I am very happy to say we had no problems except for one slightly slow ghost car, which was corrected on one of the track calls, and we got it fixed, and we had no problems throughout the rest of the race. I didn't have to readjust it or anything, so that worked out well. But the first race we had, this is the first time I've tried Joel out with doing these, and I was a little bit afeared because he's a little crash heavy, and but these actually go so well that they're a little bit fussy, and you have to be a little careful. They have a very solid limit on them. Once you lose it, it's really hard to get it back, but they don't tend to flip over and fly or just lift out of the slot or anything, and they're essentially stock, except that the chip takes up the driver's legs. I use SSD chips and flip them upside down and insert them just above so that the capacitor is sitting facing down just above the where the driver's legs would be. Anyway, we had a race of these at 125 laps, and we do random choice on the cars, and I happened to get the one that was about a half a tenth faster than the rest. But it wasn't significant from that standpoint. It was I just did a better driving job in this particular race, and I went about 4 laps ahead by the end of the race. It was pretty good. But it was fun at any rate. Shiggy didn't give me much of a challenge on this one, but in the next race we did Maseratis, the Maserati Trofeos, and this was pretty much a crash fest. I don't know what it is with the sidewinders, but I didn't get them to handle with the proviso that they were very close in speed, but they were seriously tail happy, and I've got to work on them a little bit for that reason. I don't know whether it was the track conditions or what it was, but they were really kind of leery and unpredictable. So at any rate, Shiggy finished first on that one. I lost, had a gear loosen up, And I thought, well, what the hell's going on? Couldn't find anything wrong right away. And it was loose enough that it would come and go. It was just barely loose, so it would come and go. And I couldn't figure out what it was doing. And finally I did figure it out. But by that time I was about 4 laps behind. And I managed to claw back about 3 of the 4 laps while we were doing that. Had more offs than I would like because I was pushing. And but I didn't quite make it in time. And there's the result. Shiggy was in first, I was in second, and Joel finished third. And there's the board. As you can see, Joel finished with almost no fuel, which is interesting. I did not have the fastest lap. Oh no, I did have the fastest lap, pardon me, by a significant amount, but I still couldn't catch him. And so there's one lap that I was punted off by a ghost car right before the start finish line. And I lost a lap for that. So it actually shows that I'm 2 laps behind, which was in reality 1.5. So it's close, but no cigar.
So who was driving the ghost car then, Mike?
Pardon me?
Who was driving the ghost car?
Some idiot.
maybe Ratby, but I don't know.
Yeah, Ratby was going out to get me. He says, "You're not going to win this one."
I'll have a lap off him.
Yeah. Anyway, it was good fun, and we had no problems at all with the race management system. It's been just fine, and despite some people saying that they don't like it because it doesn't have the simulations all there, for us with just using fuel and having it affect the speed of the car, it works pretty well. I would love to have RCS 64 back, but there's been an ongoing discussion on Slot Forum about this one other guy that has had the same problem as I have. So hopefully he can find out what's going on, and we'll go from there, see if there's a problem there. And we can solve it together, and I'll go back to RCS 64 because I would like to introduce tires into the scenario along with it too. But it's tough. Getting them to get the fuel done is enough at this point to think about, because the strategy involved is more than they're used to with the analog people. So anyway, that was a good time and worked out pretty well. We had good fun. And I'll stop the share.
Alrighty, good stuff. Thank you, sir. Moving on, Mr. Dewan, what you got?
Hey, first I want to apologize for my my video seems to be going in and out from time to time because I'm using a new camera. It's a bit touchy, but it's got some features that I like. We did have a weekend at for Far Out Club at Far Out Raceway, Stephen Far Jones's infamous track. I have taken it upon myself to, and I'm that's one of the reasons why I have this camera is I'm starting to videotape the entire race events, and it has a full live stream capability, and I'll be moving on to that, but just baby steps at a time. So right now I do have the 2 races that we did this past weekend posted on the Far Out channel on Facebook, and it's also on my personal channel. So that's something to look forward to. But this weekend we had the slotted DTM race, slotted DTM Group A was for our first race. And I think last week you saw me kind of semi-practicing. I was trying to narrow down between an Opel versus the Mercedes 190. And the 190 was just maybe a 1/10 of a second faster, but I was just couldn't keep it in the slot for nothing in the world. I mean, I would have 5 outs in 3 minutes, which is ridiculous. And the Opel, I may get out once in those same 5 minutes or 3 minutes rather. And so I was getting more overall laps with the Opel than I was with the slotted. But when I got to, and I have Revell track, plastic and everything. And when I got to Stevens track, it was which is all wooden, and it's a challenging track. And so all the dynamics of the track and stuff is completely different from what I was practicing on. So I put the slotted in there. I mean the Mercedes, and it was keeping the tail was staying behind, not fishtailing out where the Opal was. So it was just kind of ironic. It was just behaving that way. And so I decided at the last minute, well, not I decided after a couple of rounds of practice, to go with the Mercedes. And it as soon as the race started, it was fishtailing and coming out, doing everything. So I didn't perform very well in that at all. And it looked like all the top winners. I think it's 16. We had 23 racers there. So it was a long day. But I believe he said 16 of the 23 racers were driving the Opals. So anyway, I was the only one. I know it was two Mercedes, I think, in the field. Let me go ahead and I think I have the results right here. I think it starts sharing. Did it? Yeah, is it sharing? Okay. So yeah, this one I out of the 23 races, I finished 21st, I think, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, second to last there. So really bad showing. The second race was the Ninko 1950s to 1960s Le Mans class. And I felt a little bit better and more. Actually, I really felt confident with the DTM at first, that I was going to be performing better. I just had a really bad lane. One lane, I think I only got 18 laps. In other lanes, I was getting 22 laps and thereabouts in there. So anyway. But the next race, we did the Ninko Classic, Ninko 1950s and 60s Le Mans. And oops, I went the wrong way. That's a shot of the race, a photo of the race. And this is the results of the Ninko, and I finished up a little bit more. I think it was 16th out of 23 racers. So I still haven't made the top half yet, but I do show signs of getting better again. I'm in most of the heats, I'm not finishing last. Well, if we're running 4 heats, I might even win one heat time to time. So that's encouraging versus being last in all the heats almost. So, but anyway, if you want to see the full race, which is very long, I think about 2 hours per race. They are links to them are on the Facebook page. So that's it. I did also visit the Electric Dreams while I was down there. I went there on Friday. Flew down on Friday and then spent the morning at Electric Dreams and saw the new track. It was great. I got out there and got on the track, and it's a hoot, flat track. It's got a little crinkle in there that you don't see initially, that kind of throws you off. It looks like you're going around getting ready to hit a straight and you go full throttle and you get a little kink right when you get off into that straight. That kind of surprised me, but I'm sure the guy's going to have a blast using that as part of the arsenal of races as well. And yeah, so that's it for me for now.
Sure, you got it. Good job. All right, thank you, sir. Moving on, what you got, Jim?
Well, we had a lot going on this last week. We had
I saw a few videos.
2 races, 2 days, about 140 miles between the two tracks. One's in San Jose, one's on the opposite side of Sacramento. So it was a long weekend. I went down and tested in Motown on Friday before this on the way down. So for me, it was a long weekend. But we had a lot of fun. Silicon City is in San Jose, and we ran 4 classes. We ran the Revo Slot Group 2s, which was one of my favorite classes. I really like these cars. There's a good variety. They're all competitive. They look cool. And, I lived through this era, so I just love these cars. I'm running the Opal there. You can see it's got my name on it. which was the car that I ran at the Revo slot race and it's at Motown, and that's the name sticker. Group C, he decided for 3 or 4 months the first part of this season to run Group C, but Porsches only. So there's various flavors of Porsches, 956s and 962s, and the 962, I forget what the designation is, with a separate wing. And that's my car right in front, the Momo car. So that's a pretty popular car. And it is different. It has a longer guide lead than the other Porsches, so it drives a little bit differently. So there is a variety. GT3, I showed you this car last week, the new Corvette C8 that I built, and I'll talk about that a little bit in a second. But the C8s are starting to pop up. You can see the whole front row there are Corvette C8s. The yellow one is a car that I built and sold to a friend of mine, Mike. And so they're starting to be dominant because they are really good. Here's the Formula One race. We allow Scale Auto or NSR. The Scale Autos have to have an NSR drivetrain, so that part's all the same. And we had our lavish award ceremony after the race. And so great time at Mike Andrews Silicon City Speedway. The next day, 140 miles apart, and there was 4 of us that actually went to both races. And so I really appreciate everybody coming out and supporting all the racetracks, especially the commercial tracks, because obviously they have to make money on it. And so we went to fast tracks with almost the same classes. Group C was our first class.
That's good.
My car is the Jaguar in the middle, the purple Jaguar. It's been through lots of races since the Slotted Nationals. We always have some extra people there. Justin Colvin, a lot of you know Justin. He's probably the top scale racer in the country right now in terms of performance and so forth. That's his Nissan. And just as an aside, he hasn't got a win yet on his track with his Nissan. So we're keeping him down in second place for a while.
Sorry, sorry, Jim, and it's his track, and it's his track?
Well, he works there, but yeah, it's basically his track. He doesn't own it, but he does work there and runs the races for it. So he's been running Group C with us because he ran the Slotted Nationals. So he's continued to run the Group C class when we run at his track.
Maybe he's just a very congenial host.
No, he's pretty competitive, but he's got a handle on his cars are really fast, but he hasn't. He rarely comes out, but he comes out a few times with these cars. So he's still, even after a few races, he's still getting used to it. So, but the speed is there. So he's definitely one to watch out. And we both had problems in this race. I won the race by 2 laps. I started to have controller issues, and he was having some other issues. So we kind of both limped home, and I got the win. Then we ran Group 5, and now my controller issues really popped up. It was cutting out in the middle of the band, and I actually didn't finish this race. Ted Essie won in one of the BASF cars. I'm not sure which one's his, but he won the race. The BMWs in Group 5 are pretty dominant. They're very low. They handle very well. Back to the GT3, and you can see more Corvettes there, some different ones from different people that weren't at the race the day before. And the last race was for Formula One. Oops, why is that doing Formula One? And I sat that race out. Oh, getting ahead of myself. Formula One, I sat that race out. I was tired after 3 races, and so we had a great turnout. 11 people total showed up. One guy drove down from Reno. So we're not getting huge turnouts at fast tracks, but we're getting there. It's a big track. It's the biggest track we run on for 30-second scale. Now, back to my issues for the week. I've wanted to try one of these for a long time. And one of the racers there, Marcus, had one. He said, why don't you try it? So I tried it on Saturday. And it worked really good, and I was able to win the Group 2 race with it. It felt good on that small track with a lower powered car. With a higher powered car, I was having a little bit harder time to get used to it. But on Sunday, I told you my controller basically took a crap, and I had to borrow a controller, so I went back to this one. He let me borrow it again, and I started to get used to it with the higher powered cars, and it ended up winning the race. This car is unbelievably good. It's a standard black chassis, Corvette C8 build that I did. I'm working on a complete build video on it. And that was Saturday on the small track. Same on Sunday on the big track using the DS controller. And so it was so easy to drive, and this car was so fast. I went over a tenth faster than anybody ever gone with a GT3 car, and an overall lap record on that track for any class, any of the scale classes, not foam tire cars. And so it was so good, I decided to build another one. And so I'm working on that right now. And I've got the chassis built last night, and I did the body yesterday. So I'm working on the rest of the body today, and I'll get that done. Hopefully, we don't race GT3 this weekend, but I want to get it out on the track. So I will have 2 Corvettes, and I was very pleasantly surprised. I thought my paint job on this new car came out pretty good. So I've got the original one that you saw, the Marlboro livery, and then this new orange, bright fluorescent orange car. And so I have 2 Corvettes because we are having a Corvette race at Motown in September. It's a long way off, but it's an NSR sponsored and Professor Motor sponsored race for Corvettes only. So get a head start on that. And speaking of Motown, we're going to be live streaming this race on Saturday. And so 11 a.m. Saturday on my channel, NorCal Slot Car Scene, we're going to live stream the race. That's the setup they have for it. Multiple cameras and so forth. And they have their own YouTube channel, but they're just getting started. So I volunteered, and I'm glad he did this. I think it's going to benefit both of us. We're going to live stream 1, maybe 2 races on my channel to get the thing started and get the ball rolling, and then obviously transfer it over to his channel when he can get the subscription rate up. So looking forward to that. Yeah, I think he's got 5 or 6 cameras. We did live stream for the NSR race. So if you want to see the live stream capable, go to Motown Raceway, Motown Slot Car Raceway on YouTube. And like I said, this weekend we will be using their equipment, but live streaming on NorCal Slot Car Scene.
Cool.
So that's a lot. All kinds of stuff happening this past week and going forward.
Yeah, that orange Corvette looks really nice. That's
Thank you.
cool paint job.
I am not a modeler by any means, but that one came out really good for me.
Yeah.
And then one of the guys on YouTube said, a Corvette in McLaren orange?
It's fluorescent orange. I'm not sure about McLaren orange. Close enough.
It's rose orange.
Well, I also got my buddy that used to work at Ford. Those are Ford stripes down the middle of that Chevrolet.
That's true.
So
You can get away with a Jägermeister decal.
I play no favorites. I'm a Ford fan from way back, but I do like Corvettes.
Mix the rose orange with the rose green, and you got something.
Oh, and by the way, just a real quick story. DS controllers are sold out everywhere. And I put a post on Home Racing World. Anybody got one, please? And I got a response from one of our members from Sully, Iowa, that had one, and it's on the way to me as we speak. So I want to thank him for that. And the chat, because I put something on forum, you never know who's going to respond. But because of the chat and everything else, I knew the person, so I knew I could trust him.
Nice.
One of Jeremy's friends.
What happened to your existing controller?
I think it's the resistor. When I go about half throttle, it dies, and when I go full throttle, it picks up again. So I'm pretty sure I've got a really hairline crack or something in the resistor, because it's happened before. So I'm going to get that fixed. But I was just fortunate. I really do like the DS. I think it's an awesome controller. I hate to say it's the best controller I've ever used, but for the price, it's got to be the best thing on the market, But
Yeah.
How do you get along with the absence of the feel in the trigger? Because it's got a hall sensor like an SCP, hasn't it?
To me, it has a perfect feel, because I'm used to running HO controllers that are quote wiperless, and it's a similar feel. So I do like the feel. The spring is strong enough where you have resistance. So I mean, I took to it really quickly, which is odd for me because I'm real picky about controller feel. So that's why I decided I'm gonna see if I can find one to buy, and they're not available. According to the sources, both Electric Dreams and 132, not till May, the next batch will be in.
Do you know what those 4 knobs are for?
Yes. Is that a question, or is that, I do know? Yes.
Can you elaborate a bit more what they do?
Okay, the first knob is it's called curve, but it's basically sensitivity. The second knob going from the left, the second green knob. The second one's called aggressive, and that's where you can either flatten or I'm not sure what the other opposite to flatten the curve or raise the curve. You know, so instead of a flat curve, it kind of goes like this yeah.
Concave or convex?
Yeah, concave or convex. So it either flattens the curve, it makes the feel more aggressive or less aggressive. That's the second knob, once you get the first knob dialed in. The fourth knob is standard brakes. I think it's 0 to 100. I forget what the numbers are. And then the third knob is dynamic brake. And the way I understand dynamic brake now, reading the instruction manual, everything else, the dynamic brake allows the controller applies brake as you're starting to release the trigger, and you can ramp that up. And so I was running a relatively low amount of brake and a high amount of dynamic brake. And so it feels like that the brake is coming on earlier, and I felt like I could drive the car deeper into the corner with a dynamic brake. So I just played with it a little. I really haven't played with it a lot. When I ran the GT race, I turned that off because I didn't quite understand it. And I just ran regular brake. And halfway through the race, I'm going to dial some dynamic brake up, and you can't. I don't know that you can feel it or see it, but when you drive it hard, it makes a difference. So I like the feel of the controller. It's fairly lightweight. I like the fact it doesn't have an extra box. You know, it's just a controller. It's not quite as light. The handle's not quite as light as the Third Eye, but it's a lot lighter than a DeFalco. So I don't know what to say. I'm sold on the controller. And when you take the price into consideration, it's under $200. Hard to beat.
Does it have an option for a double finger trigger?
It does, but they don't. They say there is an optional 2-finger, but they say don't use it because it has to recalibrate the board because of the Hall sensors as opposed to just a physical contact. So they don't recommend doing it. It may mess up and I'm using their words. I'm not using their exact words, but I'm using what they say. They don't recommend using it because of that. Jeremy, what's the guy? I can't think of his name right now that I bought it from Sully.
Craig.
But they're working on a 3D, somebody's working on a 3D printed overlay for it. So you don't have to take the trigger off, but a 3D printed. It's Marty Ford.
Marty Ford came up with that idea? What a genius.
So they're working on one. I'm sure you could work on one too if you had one of the controllers in front of you. So people are working on that as opposed to replacing it, just working on an overlay or what do you want to call that, attachment to it.
Cool. I didn't even know he was into CAD.
Yeah, you could do it. It does have an interesting feature too, because there's a stop when you pull the trigger. You know, there's a physical stop, and you can adjust that. So you can adjust the throw on the controller. If you want less throw, you turn the stop out so the trigger doesn't move as far. You do have to recalibrate the controller when you do that, because when you pull the throttle, it goes to 100%. Obviously, if you move the stop, it only goes to 90. You've got to recalibrate it so the brain and the controller knows that 90 should now be 100.
But if you're having to recalibrate it for that kind of feature, what's the problem recalibrating it for a new trigger?
I don't know. I can't answer that, but I'm relaying what DS says. They don't recommend doing it.
Interesting.
And Marty suggested someone to make that, not the one doing it.
Well, he said he was going to send me one, so it's either him or somebody else, right close to him.
Okay.
So if you compare the throw of the trigger with the DeFalco, do you think it has the same amount of?
I don't know. It's been so long since I've used a DeFalco, I couldn't tell you.
Okay, so which one was the control that you had the problem with then?
Third Eye.
Third Eye. Okay.
Third Eye uses a little bitty resistor that's maybe 3/8 of an inch in diameter. And so it's a little bitty resistor. So this is the second one I've broken. I can't say that it's a design flaw, but it is a limitation just because of what they're using it. The piece they're using, the component they're using. And it's easy to fix, but this is the second one I've broken. But that controller is an awesome controller too. I love the third eye with a couple little exceptions, but like I said, I took right to this DS, and that's not normal for me. So that's why I ended up trying to find one to buy.
You know, that dynamic braking procedure, is that not a feature that you can dial into the Apex as well?
Yes, I'm sure it is, because they've got like
Not
15
like
brake
what
settings,
Gene
yeah.
is describing. So basically, the brake does not come on once you start to release the trigger. The brake comes up when you release the trigger, and then there are a couple of other controls that basically simulate how you use the brake pedal, which means how fast you press down the brake pedal and how quickly then you release the brake. So, and there are basically 4 controls that allow you to do that. But it's not what Jim was describing with the brake basically coming up once you start releasing the trigger.
I think the Solage controller has a feature similar to this.
You know, I watched the Marty Ford video on the controller, and I didn't get the impression that the dynamic brake was actually starting the braking process as you were releasing the control trigger. I did not get that from him. You're the first person to mention that.
If you read the owner's manual, that's what it seems to indicate. It says that the brake more closely follows your finger travel, and it applies it sooner. So I really would like, maybe Dennis could help us out with this, but I'd kind of like to go down to the Scale Auto Festival next week and actually talk to Yvonne directly, because a lot of this stuff is lost in translation.
Exactly.
Yeah, do you think that Ivan is going to translate any better? Good luck. So ideally, okay, I don't know, but ideally, what would be really interesting would be to have the brake strength that is proportional to how quickly you release the trigger, so that this could be more dynamic. So if you release the trigger faster, then you should have a higher brake pressure, let's say. And if you release a bit less, then less brake. And this would allow you to kind of simulate how much brake you can put across the different corners instead of having
I think that's what it is doing, without knowing absolutely 100% positive. I think that's what it is doing.
And that would be really cool.
A feature like Geo's described would allow you to feather as you move through complexes. And then if you're shooting down a long straight into a tight turn and you need the heavy brakes for that, then an immediate quick release.
And that's what he says in his video. The video that he did, he says it makes it easier to go through tight, twisty sections. And he did put a video up, but it's in Spanish, and when you try to translate it, it makes no sense at all. So, because he did do a video on it.
Okay. Well, maybe he'll do that in English as well, because he did a Spanish and an English on his gear range recently, didn't he?
The one that I saw on the controller was only in Spanish, and when I ran it through a translator, it didn't make much sense.
Okay, very interesting.
So, but yeah, dynamic brakes, even if you don't even use them, the controller is really good. So, and I think it looks cool. I love the anodized knobs on the top. I think it's a good looking piece, and it works well, and it's priced right, which is probably why you can't get them till May.
471.212.
Definitely not that.
I used the DS1 when it first came out for like a good 10 years. It was a good controller for a long time.
Yeah, I played with that new one at the 24 last year. I didn't have enough time to really get a feel for the dynamic braking, but I felt that it was a good controller overall. Felt good in my hand. The adjustments of the other 3 knobs felt good too, and the price is right. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like the curve is basically the sensitivity. I like the aggressive knob because there's a center point, and you're not just turning it up. There's a center point. One way goes more aggressive, the other way goes less aggressive, and that seems to work really well.
My only
what is the cost again of the controller?
But
of the DS controller in the States?
190 US.
Okay.
The only thing I didn't like about the DS at the time was that they came out with some initial parts you could get, and then you could never get parts again. It was just so scarce. And like, I didn't buy I was gonna buy this one because I was like, oh, I like DS, but I'm just scared. Like, their long-term support was a little
Well, I think that I
hard to
think their
get.
support is good, but with any product that's sold out, if you have, let's just say you buy one and you get one that's defective, which is not impossible, what do you do? Because you can't get another one anyway. They can't replace it because there's none to replace it with. So, but that's not a scale auto problem. That's just a problem with any product that's that hot.
Oh, Scale Auto, he owns DS.
Yeah, scale auto is DS, or DS is
Okay.
scale auto.
How are they tied to Crick Crack then? Is that I
I
thought
think
Crick
Quick Crack is the brick and mortar store, I believe, isn't it?
I thought they were tied to DS at one time because I used to email them, and they were telling me about the development of the DS controllers, but maybe I was off. I mean, who
Yeah,
knows? They
well,
got
DS is the electronic side because all the stuff that is under DS is electronics parts. And then Scale Auto is obviously cars. And I think the relationship, Crick Crack is the brick and mortar store.
Okay.
It's also a race venue. They've got a building with circuits in there. I mean, it's a destination for a slot car racer. That is, it's a holiday. I mean, I've never been, but
Yeah,
I'd
it's
love to.
a store / racetrack as opposed to they're not a manufacturer. Scale Auto is the manufacturer.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
It's all the same
It's the
organization.
same organization, yeah.
All right, floor's open. Racing or as long as it's slot car related. Currently replying to messages. Guess not then. It's funny how as soon as I'll stop the stream, everybody will just start chatting. It's like, what are you afraid of?
I have a question. Our club has adopted some modifications to a couple of our classes and putting for the slotted Group C class. That's what I was just. We were mandated to include a new tungsten weight at the very end, and I just put my first one in here, and to get better performance. And we're also going to be mandated to change the tires out too. The tires that we're going to be using are going to be our class specific tires, custom designed for our club to just for visibility purposes. It'll be the same batch of tires that they're using. But anyway, my question is, so we have the mandate of putting on the tungsten weight in the back of the Group C cars, as well as putting it in the back of the sideways cars. And just someone can give me an idea of what my anticipation changes in the handling is going to be, or I'm just kind of figuring out why. I mean, I know that changing the weights obviously changes the dynamics of the way the car drives, etc. But what should my expectations be?
Well, did they say what compound the tires were? Or are they just like changing the color so that they can be recognized as being the handout tires, or is it changing the compound?
No, the compound's gonna be the same, and it's a special, I believe, a special color, just to designate to make sure that we all are on point and using the right colors for it. So easily, without having to check, you can see that you're using the right color. But the question isn't on the tires, because we haven't gotten those yet. They're going to be coming in this week, and we race on Saturday, so they don't want to. They may come in Friday or may come in Monday, and we don't want to. They're just going to have us use our same exact the one we've been running for years on. But the tungsten weight in the back, that's where I get better.
You'd previously been racing with no additional weight allowed.
That's correct.
And now they say you must add one slotted tungsten weight to the rearmost magnet pocket.
Yeah.
So my experience is that is going to increase the likelihood that the tail will swing rather than the car rolls over, but that depends a lot on the bite of the tire. And just because they say this special colored batch is the same compound doesn't mean it'll actually have the exact same coefficient.
We'll all be in the same circumstance, so that's still,
Yeah.
club
I
wise.
mean, it's going in the center, so you're not like putting weight on both sides, right? And it's going behind or it's basically going under the rear axle or thereabouts. So you're increasing the pendulum effect. So it's going to be more likely to slide than it's going to be more likely to oversteer than understeer. That's my experience. Anybody
The
else?
tire is basically a super grip.
Yeah.
Kind of like your guys' gray compound, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They talked. They inquired with us about the tire. That's why I know about it. So it's, when you do change the color, you never know if it's going to be exactly perfectly the same, but it's basically a super grip.
Goal is to be the same. I mean, it's a good tire, but that's what you've been running. So the main difference is going to be the weight in the back.
Actually, we've been running Ortmans, and that's what the Ortmans have been inconsistent. So
okay.
that's why we're going to go back to the original D25 spec tire that came out of the cars, but they don't want people just putting they want to have it colored, so the control of the club can easily see the change. So,
Juan, did they give you a reason why they're mandating the weight to the back? It seems to me, unless you have to meet a minimum weight standard, why would they dictate you have to put weight someplace in a specific place?
That's how far it runs. That's very, very strict, very restrictive.
They want the cars identical.
That's correct. Yes, very
Yeah,
restrictive.
you can do all you like to try to achieve that, but you won't.
No.
My guess is that if I had a car and I had a choice between Ortmans, which are urethane, or NSR super grips, and to use a weight or not, I would probably end up not using the weight in the Ortmans and using the weight with the super grips. Because I believe that between the two, you're going to have a higher coefficient of friction with the super grips with your new handout tires. And I would want to put the weight in the back in order to reduce understeer and increase oversteer. I'd rather have a car slide than roll. So that might be why they're mandating the weight, is because they've already done some testing and they said, well, if we put these tires in, everybody's going to be rolling out of the slot and complaining all the time. But if we put, 2 or 3 grams of weight in the back, that's less. It's going to be less.
If you wanted to eradicate your rollover, I would have preferred any of the pockets in front of the motor.
Experiences differ. That's why. Please.
Yeah.
Speak more on that.
That's the weird thing about this. Communities do this where they make a rule and a few guys get together and go, oh, here's what's better. But that's from their driving point. Like Wayne said, my driving style might be different than Jim Rose's. And Jim Rose says, oh, I put the weight here and I put the weight there, but just because it helps me. But it just seems like a weird one where you're forcing people where to put the weight. Unless you might as well just drive IROC cars at that point. They're so.
Well, that's what they're trying to do. I mean,
no, that's what they might as well do though, and
do.
say don't bring a car. Just we're gonna IROC it, and that would be cool.
Well, that's what regulations do in general. They try to level the playing field. Of course, it doesn't.
One of the reasons they do what they do, for good or bad, they want the cars to be the same. They don't want people to have one car with a weight and one car without a weight to see which one works better on a specific track. They want them to be the same all the way across, so you don't have to worry about testing weights here, weights there, weights that. And that's the reason. I'm pretty sure, I'm not trying to talk for Stephen Farr Jones, but I'm pretty sure that's the reason. They want the cars as level a playing field as possible from venue to venue.
Right. As well as for new people getting into the club, that they just have a straight spec sheet that can go across and put everything in very simplistically without having a lot of complex as well as expense to getting into it. So that's the purpose. And
yeah.
So do they do they do a tech inspection where they weigh the car and check some of these things, or they just dictate it and assume everybody's doing that?
It dictates an honor system, and they can and will check on if needed on the spot.
Probably particularly on the winters.
Well, and then one of the other things they do is we have 4 to 5, what does he call them? I'm just going to use the term test days, where they spend the entire day testing and tuning up the cars, things like that. And that's where they've done the extensive testing of trying to put the weights in and take the weights out and things like that, and seeing what the performance is like. So they do it like 4 or 5 times a year. They'll do that, as well as that the tune-up sessions is where newbies can come in, not necessarily newbies, but people come in and everyone shares their resources and bringing all the cars up to snuff and getting them to and the tips and tricks on working each type of car to get it to the best performance. So
I watched his video on electric dreams, and it's hard to argue with his results because they got a huge club and people come back all the time. But like in that case where I was just saying, like if they wanted to pick a weight, you have to add one of the tungsten weights. Why not just leave it open? And like you said, at the end of the season, some guys will have it here, some guys will have it there. You'll know for sure which one works the best. I mean, but to mandate which one it has to be, you no longer get any of that spontaneous results kind of testing in the field. It's like, do it this way, and we'll never know what is better for everybody. It's like a few people have decided. It just seems weird to me.
But that's the whole point, is you don't have to do the testing because you're being told what to do. If you have the option, then you got to do the testing.
But you'll never know if anything's better now.
It doesn't make a difference if it's better as long as it's equal.
Okay, then just run IRAD. What I'm saying, just go back to run 4 cars, Steven. Provide us 4 cars, we'll show up.
Sorry if I missed this before, but is everyone running the slotted Nissan?
No, it'll just be the slotted the slotted Group C class. So it's not Nissan. It's just any Group C car that you choose, and there's cars with advantages and disadvantages on different tracks.
So that's the area for testing. Then you do have to build 6 cars, one of each body shell, just to find out which one was best.
So much for being a beginner.
But you don't have to build 3 versions of 6 cars.
No, I get it. I know. I mean, I was being
I know.
Yeah.
Dwan, back to your point. The key for this thing is to building the tires and building them properly.
I mean, are they technically, are you allowed to even glue the tires on, let alone true them?
Yes, you can glue and true.
You can't put additives on them.
No additives.
What would be really good is that they should have one person making all the tires, and then on the first day of the race, everybody shows up and picks the pack they want, and pitches in and then boom. Then nobody complain about tire magic.
You might have a point there, Jerry. You do have a point there, Jerry.
Oh, I do. I know. I'm saying you want to be equally competitive because I'm sure there's tire voodoo magic out there that people know that newbies aren't going to know.
That's part of the honor system they have there. You're not supposed to do anything to the tires, and that's on the honor system.
Oh, I'm sure that's worked well.
Yeah, that's why we eliminated that rule. And
it works for them. I don't agree with that particular rule, but it works for them.
Like I'm jealous of them. They have a great turnout. Like they have amazing stuff. I mean, but I don't know how that would go over with normal, like most people. Like,
they also use house controllers.
Yes.
Oh, brutal. You have.
Right.
Is it Professor Motors?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it is Professor Motors. That's right.
Yes.
I would be screwed. I might as well just show up with my left hand and drive and hope for the best. I'm screwed.
But I'll tell you, we also have highly tuned loaner cars. The loaner cars are typically some of the top performing cars, but you have the loaner car is per lane. It stays, so you can't just like get used to a car. You have 4 cars. You have to just on a 4-lane track.
Which is a great idea. When you have 25 people and let's say half of them want a loaner car, instead of having 12 loaner cars, you only have 4, 1 for each lane. So if you're a loaner car driver, you drive the loaner car that's on the red lane when you're on the red lane, and then so you're driving a different car in each lane.
And many times, loaner cars, drivers with loaner cars have won the race because those loaner cars are really quite well.
Yeah,
It's
that's one of the best.
the purest form, isn't it? I suppose IROC. I mean, every driver gets the same equipment in pretty much the similar conditions. This is why we like being in team races. We can race against one another, all running an identical car on an identical track, identical day, and we can do it again and again and again within a long race.
And we do have 14 races a year as well. That does exactly that.
I got to get down there to one of these days, Dwan.
Yeah.
When you come up to one of our races, I'll get down there to one of yours.
Okay.
I mean, it doesn't much matter whether regulations are wide and wide open or whether they're pretty prescriptive. They're always fair because they're always the same for everyone.
Correct. That's the thought. That is the
philosophy. The main difference is the people, the specific person going to the specific club, right? You might have somebody who's so into, weight tuning and tire treating and, all that stuff that would just like, I can't believe they're restricting all this stuff, But then you got other people going to that same club going, boy, I'm so glad I don't have to worry about this stuff. I don't have to spend all this time on my tires. I can just go and have fun.
Have fun. That's it. If you go out there and everybody's in the same playing field and you're having a blast. If you have the most competitive car, you're out there just super competitive guy and everything. Those have their place, but this right here is about having fun.
And it's the same people, the fast guys at Electric Dreams, like Eddie and Walt and Dennis. They're the fast guys at Far Out.
Yes.
That's what a lot of people keep forgetting is that they think that if they spend all this time tuning their car that they're more likely to win. And that might be true to a small extent, but it's always the guys that can consistently run good laps without swinging around or coming out. They're always at the top. You give them a crappy car and they're still going to be near the top. You give a fantastic car to a bad driver and they're still going to be, down there somewhere.
When we do an IROC,
it's not going to be named Dewan, is what you were avoiding saying there, isn't it?
I wasn't naming anybody. It happened.
He held his hands up. Yeah, you should have seen him.
Go ahead, Wayne.
This is what we swim in a different pond. We swim in a pond where the regulations don't dictate anything about what manufacturer of equipment you use. You can 3D print all you want. There are certain materials you need to avoid, expensive materials and things like that. But what we find at the end of the day is no one can build a much better car than anyone else, and it's really all down to the driving skills, as Greg was alluding to.
Yona can.
I'm sorry, Jim, I missed that bit.
Yona can. You saw the GT, the proxy results the other day?
That's all right. We've just raced against Yona's car in GT3 in Suzuka, and it was a different story.
They can't all be winners.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it was the same car. It was the Porsche. But yeah, you're right. Yona's just done a great result in the round 0 of the GT3 Proxy. He's set a lap time that's very, very close to the track record. So we'll see how that plays out.
He sent me a car to drive, and it was also a Porsche, so it's got to be very similar. And that car is really good.
Yeah.
Back on the controller thing, somebody on YouTube asked if the dynamic braking on that DS controller that we were talking about is in any way similar or the same as the thing DeFalco has with the ESP. I don't know that controller.
I don't think DeFalco has anything on brakes other than they've got some fancy names, and I could be wrong. I'm not trying to knock DeFalco because they're great controllers, but I don't think he has anything fancy in brakes other than the I'm gonna try to say the amount of brakes. He does have that what was it called, the ESP?
ESP, yeah.
Which I think is like a relay, which theoretically could give you stronger brakes, but I'm pretty sure he doesn't have anything going on that varies brakes via computer or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, any non-linearity, yeah.
Yeah. It's all or nothing, not all or nothing, but it is all or nothing, but you can determine what all is.
Yeah, it's all of your preset.
Yeah.
Just like most fixed brakes.
And there's controllers like the SCP sweep brakes or the Siage Racing ABS or other kinds of things where you have your brake strength that's when the initial bite and then it dissipates at an adjustable rate. but that's still not going to happen until you're off the trigger. It's not going to happen while you're
Right,
slowing
and-
down.
When the DS first came out, some people said it's like sweep brakes, and it's not.
No.
It's totally different.
There is a big weakness with the sweep brakes settings in the SCP. It's an area that I think is ripe for a development, but the unfortunate thing about the SCP is it always applies 100% brakes first, and that's just too strong in many cases.
Yep.
Do people use that sweep brake function even like you digital
Yes.
guys?
Some
Yes.
people do.
I
I'm
do.
not used to it.
Yes, people do use it with certain cars on certain circumstances. You can use it. It's quite powerful in certain applications. But in our case, where we mostly race digital with the SCP, and we mostly race on Ninco track, that application of brakes can be 100% is useful. For example, at Le Mans, when you're going so damn fast that you've got the tall gear ratios, and the 100% brake is not actually all that powerful. So it doesn't overpower the level of grip that the car's got. But on smaller, tighter tracks, you try running with a 100% brake, even if you sweep it away quickly, that 100% jolt at that low gear ratio causes traction problems or braking. It can cause a lockup, I think, basically. You can't see it. You don't know that it's happening, but it must be something akin to a lockup. So we all run no, a lot of us switch for fixed brake and turn that down to about 8. So you never get 100%.
So Bob said, I think I heard Bob chime in there. You said that you do use the sweep brakes.
We do. There are places where we do.
I was talking
And
to
you
Bob.
said, oh, sorry, you're wood on wood.
I was talking to Bob.
Sorry, Bob. Who's Bob?
Bob
Not you.
chimed in. Go ahead,
Oh,
Bob.
yeah,
Shut up,
there he
Wayne.
is.
Wayne, shut up. Go, Bob.
Are you talking to me?
Yes, sir.
Talking to me.
I moved away. Was there a question?
I thought you had popped in saying that you did use the sweep brakes.
I use that exclusively, especially on glued track with foam tires. It really allows us to rerun on a 94-foot track, and the sweep brakes really works well to get through the turns quicker.
All right. What kind of cars are they?
We run Revo slot. We run the LMP cars from Slotted. A lot of fast cars, and they move quickly. So we're doing like anywhere from. We just had a Revo slot race, GT1s, GT2s, and fast times are down in the 5.3s on a 94-foot track. So
You said those are with the foam rubber tires and spray
Yeah.
glue.
yeah, light spray glue. Yeah,
Light spray glue on the track. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
so tons of traction. So they're not gonna lock up like Wayne was saying there because they're hooked up so hard.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
But I tried the linear function that you can switch to, and I just don't like it in that environment. It just doesn't work well for me personally. I just assume that my trigger finger is just too slow to react, But that's where I kind of like the sweep brake, so I don't have to be as quick on the trigger to brake and then accelerate through a turn.
Yeah.
So
cool. See, differences. I love it.
Which is why the Far Out Club has spec controllers. They don't have to have all this other stuff as well.
Yeah, and the worst part is somebody gets a fancy new controller and they have literally no idea how to tweak it, and they're constantly
Apex.
Well, whatever. I mean, it happens with all of them. If it's got a knob, some people will be like, "Which way do I turn it?" So.
Yeah, the more adjustments that you build in, the more chances you've got of getting things wrong.
Yeah.
You just need to know what you're doing if you're gonna start using adjustments.
Yep.
Part of learning.
Yeah, that's part of the hobby, part of the fun.
Hey, I got a question for you. Have you played with the latest version of the Slotted app, the 1.78 or such, that Maurizio released, or he has a few beta testers on?
Probably, since I'm on the beta. What are you going to ask specifically?
Well, I just found that it hooked. You know, I use an iPhone, and it just seems like the connectivity is instant compared to the previous version. I can't remember what the change was. I don't know what your experiences have been.
Well, I'm on Android, so it doesn't really apply to me.
Yeah.
I remember.
Okay.
I mean, it's always been the iPhone communication has been a bugaboo for them for a while. So it wouldn't surprise me if at some point recently they found some trick or something to change that made things work better on iPhone.
Yeah, this latest version works much better for me.
Yeah.
It's pretty much instantaneous.
Are you iPhone as well, Mike?
Yeah.
There you go.
I'm on 178 as well, and I've used it on an Android, and apart from a slightly different interface, there's no change for me. It just works.
Yeah.
Is that
And
Wi-Fi?
that's new.
Is it Wi-Fi or Bluetooth?
It's
It's low energy Bluetooth.
Yeah, BLE. So Bluetooth, just versus old Bluetooth.
Is that short range Bluetooth because it's BLE? I guess it must be.
Yeah. Yeah, the actual communication from the controller to the oxygen car is basically Wi-Fi. It's not the same frequency range and stuff, but more or less, yeah. Wi-Fi. 2.4 gigahertz.
It works in the 2.4 gigahertz range like Wi-Fi does.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that if you've got a Wi-Fi network in your house, you're going to interfere with your SCP, because you're just not.
Yeah. But the more wireless there's happening, the more likely there's going to be interference. But it does frequency hopping, so, you know.
Exactly.
It's pretty good about it. All right, you guys all done? You want to talk about the weather?
John, is it done yet?
Yeah, Don, is it done yet? I got one to ask you not to.
Actually, you know what? No, I have to first of all thank. I know none of you guys watch my channel, but I've had a really, really good response to my latest little episode. So thank you for those who watch, and the rest of you. Well, thanks for nothing. Yes, your car, Greg, is being masked. Yes, it is. And Mr. Mike, I think I have a happy mold. So,
oh, good.
All positive stuff. And of course, they're also being recorded at the same time. And
just so you know, John, the Avant slots are almost completely sold out.
Oh, and you said they were quite expensive as well, right?
Oh yeah, like $169.
Oh yeah, no. So I'm trying to convince our daughter to get back into making her cars. We've had a lot of requests, as I said, for the Austin Healey Bug-Eyed Sprites, but the other car that I really want to get her to go with is the XK120. That was her first release, and that was really quite successful. So she's actually done a new body with fender skirts. So she now has one with and one without fender skirts. So it's just a matter of just pouring some resin and building some chassis.
Cool.
The other cool thing is that we actually have a lot of, remember those Dr. Vansky motors that they talked about? They're very close to an NC1. I just found where I bought some, and I found the stash. And that's what she uses for her XK120s, the Ferrari 340s, and stuff like that. So I just have to bribe her. That's what it boils down to.
But are those F-150s, those going to be available for sale, or just doing?
Oh, I mean the F100s. Yeah. Actually, Dewan, the other thing that's going to happen too is I want to do a complete cab. So if you don't want doors opening or hoods opening, you can actually build a real slot car out of it.
John Kitt, what is your channel?
Oh, it's called Fast Sports. It's totally incongruous to slot cars. I started it because of my racing, and I think I've only got like one racing thing on there. But yeah, it's Fast Sports Scale Car Garage on YouTube.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Oh, thank you for watching. See, you're not like these guys at all. You're actually going to watch it. Cool. Thank you.
And I've watched your video.
There we go. This looks a little better.
Everybody here should sign up for John's channel. We can double his viewership.
Oh my goodness, yeah. I'd have a stroke. Oh my God, I'd have a stroke.
and spam
Some of us have
comments.
tried watching, but we just don't like the presenter.
Well, well, all I can say is that's the best AI I can do right now.
No, that's you're thinking of the Car Fun Mostly channel, Wayne.
Oh, the
Our
gauntlet has been
gentleman.
thrown. Oh my
Every
God.
good lunge is worth a parry.
Yep. All right, what were you holding up there, Don?
Oh, Don, you got the kidney wheels. Yes. Very cool.
Yeah, I happen to had a brand new pack of those, so I thought I'd go ahead and stick them on one of the cars or chassis. God only knows what happened to the car, but anyway.
Well, you know, you can if you find on eBay the least expensive Aurora 1/32 scale body you can get is the monogram repop of the Mustang 2+2.
Haven't ever seen it, but
Oh, that's okay. That and also a monogram re-release, the GTO that Aurora had. Yeah, I think those two on eBay they're not that expensive. They're just like, you know, $10 to $15 because they're like rabbits. If you put two in a drawer, they'll just multiply.
I'll have to check that out.
Wow, well, that was a short burst of energy.
Yeah, I was hoping I might have found out what that one brand was, but when Dennis was here, we weren't showing it, and then he left quick. So,
Well, there were back in those days, there were many rogue manufacturers at the time, you know, so that you got a lot of things that just one-ups.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah. So, some of the chassis looked like they came from somebody who manufactured window slides or something.
yeah. Well, I mean, you know, I remember seeing. I don't even know what kind of motor this is, but
I have one of those. I have one. It was from an Auto World grab bag. They would send you put in $10 and they send you a whole box of whatever they happen to have in that box.
Yeah, I think that's a I might be wrong. I think it's a Chemtron.
It is a Chemtron.
Right, that's what it was. That's exactly what it was. That's exactly.
And it'll actually pull the fillings right out of your teeth if it runs properly.
Well, it runs.
I think it had no brakes at all. I think it just was.
I wonder what the motor was originally intended for. Some kind of paint mixer or something for the
or a dentist's drill. Who the heck knows?
All a drab.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it was like that global the globe motor. Yeah, that was actually used for a control surface for missiles or something in the 60s. The globe motor, and then I guess some
globe.
Yeah, and then they were like round. They were cylindrical in shape. Mm-hmm. And then someone decided to try one on a slot car.
You will get an email from me.
Bob.
Oh, sorry. What was that?
Bob's sending an email to.
I'm sorry.
He was dictating. There we go. I muted him. Go ahead and do your dictation, Bob.
You know, one of the things that I thought was interesting that came up this week was on one of the Facebook groups for slot cars. They didn't want somebody cross-posting from their site to this site and whatnot. Like I noticed, but like in here, we usually say, oh, go to Electric Dreams, go to slot fast sports cars right there. It's in the challenge here, or you know, we try to share as much as we can because we're so niche. I'm wondering when people do that, obviously you shouldn't spam somebody's website or group, you know, with 500 advertisements a week. But like when you lock it down to where you can't share anything, it just seems counterproductive in this hobby. But oh well.
I think I might.
You know what I'm talking about?
I think I might have seen what you're talking about.
Okay.
And if it's the same thing that I saw, the thing that I saw, not necessarily the same thing you saw, but the thing that I saw was basically one of the Facebook groups I didn't see the original post, but I saw the resulting post. Apparently the original poster was promoting his own slot car related Facebook group, right? So he's coming into that group saying, here, join my group. And that was the main issue. It was not that he was posting, you know, to you know, a source of information or you know, product or whatever, but that he was saying, join my group, right? Which I totally understand. I mean, you've probably been on the internet same length as me, and a long time ago there used to be the place you go for, whatever hobby, right? I was into laser tag, playing laser tag with my kids for a long time. Back then, there was the laser tag website, right? And then as time went on, you'd have more and more. And these days, there's hundreds and hundreds of Facebook groups that are somehow related to slot cars. It's breaking up the fandom or the hobbyists even more, because you can't. I mean, I'm on like 20, and that's too much for me to try to keep track of. You just can't. So you end up, and it's
you're on
20
20
also to just choose one, right?
But you're on 20. Number 17 disappeared. The owner died. Does it affect you at all? Probably not. But you still have, you still have plenty of choices, and there's still the ones you like the most. You probably visit. Like I assume they come into your feed.
It's going to be to a point where there'll be as many groups as there are people in the hobby, because everyone will have a group.
Yeah, I mean,
it's okay. I just think it's weird. Like I would want as many people sharing. And yes, some little dinky channel is going to start up. Hey, come over here, and he's got 5 people on there. But he may be gone in a week. He may get an interview with like the Prime Minister of France, and all of a sudden, boom, he blows up. Like we don't know. We'll never know, because we're locking everything down. And we're afraid of any kind of change or I don't know.
Yeah, no, but I agree with you, Jeremy. The more open you are in sharing stuff, the better it is for everybody. And really, it takes some time, but your channel or whatever you're doing will grow. Just I don't know why people are so obsessed with numbers. Just if you're going to be obsessed with anything, just put out a good communication. That's all.
I was saying I understand their point of view.
No, I know.
They're afraid that they're going to, the people who see that message are going to go over to that group and then
never come back to this
never
group.
come back or something.
But that just seems counterproductive. Like that's not how it really works. Like right now there are YouTubers who have crossed over into pro wrestling, and the pro wrestling fans come over into the YouTube chambers. It's like it's symbiotic. Like you want all that. You want as many tendrils and as different things as you can, because you're going to pick up 2 people from his channel that didn't know about your channel. I don't know. Duan's robot has a different opinion, but that's fine.
He keeps forgetting he's not muted when he starts getting his laps.
I know. I just think it's a little counterproductive. And to me, it's kind of an old school thinking that I probably would have done the same thing back in the early 90s. Been like, oh, no, hey, don't cross promote here. But now it's like we're so connected. It just makes more sense to let it, obviously with limits. You don't want spam, every week.
Yeah.
Well, as we know, Jeremy, the same thing has happened on YouTube with a particular news channel. So it's like, share. What the heck? You're not going to be a millionaire with this hobby. I mean, I don't get
Wait, you're not? What?
Not from the hobby.
Do you not tell my wife this?
It's going from tens of dollars to ones of dollars.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. I run out of new customers. That's unfortunate.
Yeah, our market is literally dying off.
I know. It's brutal.
Very true.
Oh, there's a good proxy race, a hearse proxy race, or is that not quite?
I thought Dewan's lights were flashing there while he was running. I thought maybe he was running under rain there.
No, it's disco slot cars.
Okay. Rain delay, lightning on the track.
That's it. Yeah.
How about F1 testing today?
Yeah, I was watching a bit of it.
Was there any highlight? Because I saw the end of it at the morning, and Liam Lawson had spun, but I think that was it, wasn't it?
I don't know. I didn't see any. I saw the results, and they had a red flag for a power outage or something.
Well, it was in Spain, wasn't it?
No, Bahrain.
Oh, Bahrain. Oh, okay. That's odd.
Is Lance Stroll still racing?
Well, I wouldn't call it racing.
Okay, I'm just curious. I only watched the
Yeah.
Netflix series. I
Yeah,
don't
he
watch
is.
the races.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, Daddy, buy me a team, Daddy.
I
No.
wish Daddy would buy me a team. What do you? I'm jealous.
Yeah.
Yeah, but at least he's reasonably good. I mean, there's some others there's some in NASCAR that are terrible, but
Well,
Latifi.
back in the 60s and 70s to get into F1, wasn't it like mostly rich people that get
Oh
their
yeah, well,
financing?
Latifi and his family just had enough sense to realize that they were just getting robbed and he wasn't going to go anywhere, so they just went the heck with it. Now,
Oh,
in fairness, Latifi did very well in F2, but to go to F2 to Formula One, it's not a linear progression; it's exponential.
Is he on to another series?
No, I don't know what he's doing. I
No.
think he's not doing much. I think he's just counting his Ital pasta money with mom and dad.
the only difference really is where the money comes from. I think all Formula One drivers take money into Formula One, don't they?
I thought the top 4 or 5 get paid, and that's about it.
Oh, one other
No,
thing
I mean,
is,
when they make their way in, don't they bring sponsorship with them? Isn't that the general way?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So they don't get paid; they're paying the team.
So the only difference is where the money comes from, and I don't see any. I don't
And
see
that was my
payback as
well,
any
that was my
different.
whole racing career, dude. I was so good I paid them.
Well, that's the way. That's the way for most. I mean, there are That's
Yeah,
the way that most
unless
people
you're
climb the
Sebastian
ladder.
Vettel, Lewis Hamilton. I mean, even Perez brought money. And that's
Oh
why
my
he
God.
stayed with Red Bull for so long. And it was like, well, okay, check's cleared. Bye.
Yeah, Carlos Slim money.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Jeremy?
my daughter has to go to Japan this summer for some school thing, and I'm just wondering, is there any like Japanese only slot car editions that like? Because she's asking what she should get me. I'm like, is there something you can pick up in Japan that we really can't get here that would be kind of cool or interesting in the slot car world?
You know that Japan is actually they like slot car racing, by the way. Like
Yeah, I know that's, but I
yeah.
know, but I'm just thinking, it's like, is there any exclusive? It was only released in Japan. If you guys can think of anything, or maybe in the comment section, if somebody can.
controller +1 controller.
What controller would that be, Jim?
+1.
A +1 controller, it's called. It comes out of Japan.
Yep.
All right. I was thinking something like a car, but okay, Jim, I'll take that into control.
Isn't there a place? Isn't there a place where all the hobby stores are located and they're all close together?
Yeah, it's the electronics district.
Sorry to interrupt. There were some Japan only releases. Was it from Carrera that they did some?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
there
tied
were.
to anime or something, or
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Now the cars are quite nice though, and they're right-hand drive, but in the interior. But yeah,
Yeah.
there are some.
They're tied to Initial D.
That's it. Thank you, Wayne. Yes.
Initial D.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and they're available from AliExpress, but they're not cheap.
All right.
Going back to something that John Kitt mentioned a few moments ago in regards to the participants in the hobby dying out. It's like model railroading. Has anybody or has the group ever talked about trying to figure out ways to attract young folks into the hobby?
Other than bribery?
Electric Dreams has a kid series that they run. I mean, that's probably about the only way you're going to get kids interested. Like,
Whatever it remains on the toy store shelves, I think kids will always find it. I think slot car sets are one of the classic toys. Just don't leave the top 10 of global toys.
Yeah, Carrera Go pretty much owns that market. A little bit of the Scholastic Micro, they've got some of the market. As far as just, what can we do? You can do things locally, right? Unless you've got millions of dollars to waste on some kind of ad campaign, which nobody does. I mean, even Carrera, you don't see Carrera commercials on TV. Go watch some Saturday morning cartoons. I guarantee you're never going to see a Carrera or a Scholastic commercial. But locally, you can go. If you got spare track, you can go set up a track at a library. In their community room and say, free slot car racing. Put it on their community wall, and you'll have families bringing their kids in. generally speaking, though, it's almost always when you have a kid in the hobby, it's pretty much always because their dad or granddad is into it and brings them along, or plays at their house and wants to go to race with the big boys and all that kind of stuff.
God.
So.
But to your point, John, model railroading is having a similar sort of issue, I guess.
It is.
But, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. But there are some young folks who are into model railroad. The other thing that slot car racing or even slot car out building never really got was any sort of real celebrity endorsement. I mean, at least model railroading has, Rod Stewart, right? Jules Holland. I mean, believe it or not, Frank Sinatra was into. Yeah,
James May.
Walt Disney.
All these millennials, Gen Zs, and Gen Alphas out there are going, who?
Yeah.
But again, there's some.
But he did it his way.
What's that? Sorry.
He did it his way.
He did indeed, yeah. But again, I think model railroading is kind of like our hobby in that it's like a moped hobby. It's a lot of fun to do. You don't want your friends to see you while you're doing it. So it just takes somebody with enough fortitude to come out and say, yes, I'm a hobbyist. And I, with some sort of level of exposure, and it might help a great deal.
The club I used to belong to had an annual around Christmas time, as you might imagine, an annual open house. And it was advertised in the local paper, with these 3 columns that you can advertise in. It was pretty good. It attracted an awful lot of people. And the group has, I was visiting the guys the other day. I haven't been involved with the club for a couple of years. And they were saying that they have attracted some younger folks. And the other thing is they rent a table at things that aren't necessarily model railroad associated, home shows, things to that effect. And to your point, I think it was Greg, that you have to do it at a local level, but that's the clubs at the local level to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and to your point, I think like I just for the first time last year participated in a car show with our sports car, and my goodness, when I go for this year, I'm actually going to set up I'm setting up a small slot car set, and it'll be outdoors. I'll power it with a car battery or something, and I'm sure that you'll get people who either remember it or have never seen it before, and hopefully they'll think it's cool.
We did that. Well, I shouldn't say we, because the club in San Francisco that used to be an HO club used to go to the San Francisco Auto Show, which back then was a big deal, and set up a booth and have a track there, and it got no traction at all. Pardon the pun. It sounded like a great idea. We'll get some new members, and just didn't happen.
I gotta tell you that when it was done at the Toronto Auto Show, when I was involved with it, it did really, really well.
Well, the booth did really well, but it didn't translate to any new members or anything like that.
Okay, I got you. Okay. Yeah, but
none that you could trace anyway.
Well, exactly. No one stands up and said, and
yeah.
People will tell you they play pickleball, which is like full scale ping pong, which you'd have to shoot me. I would never play that. But they won't talk about, having a little motorized car around a track.
For those who are not aware, Alan of 132slotcar.us/Scale Racing LLC still goes to big automobile racing events and shows and stuff like that, and still sets up a big old table and covers it with Polo Car Track and just lets people come and play with it. I doubt that he's generated a whole lot of sales with that, but he's always been Mr. Outreach, slot car guy. He started the Scalextric import into the U.S. back in the day, and he still does that kind of stuff. But like you said, I'll use my laser tag example. I was running a laser tag club, and I brought laser tag for free to the local July 4th event in our town for like 4 or 5 years in a row. And it was just a constant line of kids lining up to play, and just game after game after game for the entire time. And at the booth was basically our sign saying, "Hey, we do laser tag all summer long for free. Come and play anytime you want." I don't think I counted a single person who ever came to our free laser tag club games after having seen us at the 4th of July festival. It's a thing that they did on 4th of July, and that was it. That was the end of it. So with the outreach things, it's a thing that they did that one time, you know, and maybe later on in life they'll remember, oh yeah, I did that once as a kid or something like that. But, you know, how do you get the ones? It's a numbers game, right? You just got to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and hope that 1 out of 100 decides that it's cool enough that they want to keep doing it.
I think you'll find, and this applied to me when I was an early wannabe hobbyist or racer, is that kids don't own cars, and that's where it actually stops.
Yeah.
They've got to have the parent that's willing to take them.
Yeah.
Well, hang on a minute. You know, unfortunately, he's not here today because he really has a date. But you know, our youngest member here, there he is,
hey, there
right on cue. Holy doodles! You see there, you just lowered the average age significantly. Well done, well done. We were just talking about you.
All right. On that note, we're way past our 2 hours. We're going to end the stream. So until next week, everybody wave bye. The end button has been clicked. Waiting for it to be done. We'll assume that it's done. Now you guys can talk about everybody else's mother. I'm going to go have lunch.